About 11 years ago, I made a video about a very expensive Calex firework lamp. Now, I don't think they can really call these firework lamps anymore, although they're more deserving of the title firework lamp. The title tends to go to the mirrored ones these days that have the sort of infinity mirror effect. But this was the original, and back then it was £15 to buy one from John Lewis in the UK. This one came from AliExpress recently for about £5, so a big dramatic change in price. And I was wondering what the circuitry was going to be because I'm pretty sure it's capacitive dropper before. If we take a look at the power rating of this, it says 1.7 watts, say 0.5 power factor, which is quite low, but that's okay. It might suggest it might be a capacitive dropper, or just a small number of LEDs to a linear regulator, and 14 milliamps. Let's unscrew it. It's very stylish. I shall put this out the way. There we go, out the way. It's very stylish, and there's a lot of work in these, because if you take a good close look at it, you can see that they have pushed this LED structure in through the base of a glass bulb, and then they've flared the LEDs out afterwards. That's the only way I can see them make it. I don't see another seam. The only seam is likely to be down here. And that does suggest maybe they've got a tool that they populate the circuit board's LEDs, build up the structure, and then the tool literally goes in and locks in like that, and then you drag it down, and it basically pulls all the LEDs down, and then you unhook it. Not sure. Don't know what's involved in making this. But I tell you what, let's have a wee nibble at the base and open it up. So there's the spudger volunteering its services already to get the base off, the end cap, which might not come off because it's maybe recessed in like some are. It's coming off. I feel bad taking this one apart. I quite like it, but that's okay. I got it for us to take a look inside. The next step is, of course, to have a wee nibble at the metal and try and break the general structure so we can start ripping into it. Some of you have said, couldn't you just run a... I'm just spotting something inside here. Couldn't you just run a wire cutter, not a wire cutter, a pipe cutter around it? And the answer is, I don't know if that would work too well because it is a spiral screw thread. Oh, there is a capacitor in there. That's good. That's for the smoothing. There's a capacitor. Here is the lamp cement. Already I can tell you that I think this is a linear regulator. Rightio. So if I can just weasel it out a little bit more. Get in there. What do we see? We see a linear regulator. Is that, no, that's a bridge rectifier. Is it? Oh, no, there's an inductor. Is this using a little buck regulator? What voltage are the LEDs running at? There's only one way to find out, and that is to take a picture of the circuit board. Well, get all this horrible lamp cement off. This is so annoying, this lamp cement. And then take a picture and we'll explore the circuitry together. But it does look like it might be a little buck regulator. One moment, please. And resume. And you can see that the lamp cement did not come off the circuit board very well. It actually damaged one of the components, meaning I couldn't actually read it. This lamp cement is a high temperature cement. It's used in traditional tungsten lamps, so you can't heat it to dissolve it, and it seems to be fairly impervious to solvents that won't damage other components, which is annoying. It just means it's very hard. Usually you have to just scrape it off carefully and sometimes make guesses. In this case, fortunately, we don't have to make a guess, because I was able to clear enough off one of the components to work out what it was. This is the magic component here. I've just zoomed in a little bit too far, but I have no regrets. That will be fine. The incoming supply comes into the bridge rectifier here. There is no fusible resistor. It's just straight in. Well, I suppose really the wires are kind of a fusible resistor in a way. And it goes, from the output of that, it goes to this electrolytic capacitor, 2.2 microfarad, 400 volts. I'll draw that in. 2.2 microfarad, very small, 400 volt. There is a dedicated chip. It's marked 8302MSS. Took me a while to find that. If you type that into Google, it will not come up with anything. Even if you type in the full chip number, it won't come up with anything, which is very odd because there is a Chinese datasheet available on the manufacturer's website if you know where to look. There is the current sensor resistor that was completely obliterated. I was trying to just carefully pare off the material on the top just to expose it, and unfortunately moved all the text. But let's guess that it's a fairly low value, like say 1 or so ohms, maybe a few ohms. After that, we have the classic buck regulator circuit with a fairly large inductor, yellow, violet, red. That's 472, 47 and 2 zeros, 4,700 microhenries. And this little capacitor down here, I measured it in circuit at 10 nanofarad, which seems quite low. And there is a high-speed diode here. And that forms, basically speaking, a current regulated supply for the LEDs that are connected across these two pins. The LEDs, I'm not sure how they put them in. I'd guess that maybe they initially put a tube around them to slot them in. But I'm sure that once they're in, they must have some arrangement that fans them out. It must be quite a complex little arrangement in there. But we have 3 circuit boards, and on each circuit board we've got an inner circle of 6 LEDs and an outer circle of 9 LEDs, giving 15 on each circuit board. And most of them have the 6 on the inside and then the 9 on the outside, the long LEDs on the outside. But the top, they've reversed that. The long LEDs are actually sticking up to the end just for visual effect, I guess, just to fill more of the bulb. And it's quite interesting because it means that because of the arrangement in here, these are bus bars going all the way up with about 40 volts to these LEDs. And each LED has its own separate circuit of 15 LEDs. So that for smaller lamps, they might just use the tip circuit board, just one circuit board on its own. For slightly larger lamps, they might use 2 circuit boards. And for the biggest lamps, they'll use 3, but technically speaking, they could add more. They could make for a 4 circuit board or more version. Let me show you the schematic, which is the manufacturer's schematic, because it was just easier just to say, here is what the manufacturer says and draw in the values. I shouldn't have zoomed. I shall zoom back in a little bit. There we go. So it is an FM superchip, FM80302MSS SOT23-4, which means it's a 4-pin SOT23 package. And we start with the incoming supply, goes to the bridge rectifier, and then to that 2.2 megafarad 400 volt capacitor. The positive then goes to the LEDs and that seemingly low 10 nanofarad capacitor, and also this freewheel diode. The negative, it also goes to the chip directly, which means the chip is effectively powering itself directly from that fairly high voltage rail, about 350 volts in the UK, which is quite high. But that's just what modern chips can do. The chip has the drain for the MOSFET inside, which pulses this inductor. And when it pulses the inductor, because it is an inductor, current flows through the LEDs, but because it's building up a magnetic field, it limits the current. So current flows through until it reaches the saturation point that's set by this resistor when it detects the threshold voltage. And then this turns off, and then the magnetic field collapses, and it goes through the freewheeling diode because the polarity changes, and it tops the capacitor up in the other half as well. So it's just an efficient way of doing it. Probably running at very high frequency for such a low value of capacitor, but then this is also quite a high value of inductor. The sensor resistor and the ground. The sensor resistor will ultimately be passing most of the current, if not all of it, from the MOSFET inside. And by measuring the voltage across that, they can see the level of, well, saturation of the inductor. And that is more or less it. 40 volts across there, the 15 series LEDs by 3 in parallel, giving that. Very unusual and interesting. So it will be run them probably around about 45 milliamps, I'd guess. I'll just slot this down here. Oh, notice. There's a little earth symbol here. That is not an earth connection. It's just simply they're using that as the ground, the 0 volt reference for the circuitry. That's also why they call that ground, when it isn't actually ground. It's just what this circuit perceives as being its base level. But that is it. Quite a neat lamp. That's not going back together in a hurry. It would be quite time consuming to try and move all these out. Also, I've destroyed the resistor, but I could experiment. I could rebuild it if I wanted. But as it is, it's easier. and less time consuming just to buy a new one, and perhaps keep this as a little memento and just stick it into the box of LED lamp bits just in case I decide to use the circuit board in the future. But that is it. The original firework style lamp with the glass globe and the big cluster of LEDs inside. Used to be really expensive and just available in gold and white. Now it's available in a wide range of colours, including ice blue and red, green, blue, yellow, the usual colours, pink, purple, warm white, cold white. It's available in all those colours. And it's a lot cheaper too, which is always a good thing.